this idea of what a king is, and the politics of it. A king trying to hold a nation together using his will alone isn't really what's going on here. This generation, the Caroline generation,
about devolution.
that's everybody that was born after Prince Charles, so everybody that's like 70 and younger. So, if it goes to referendum in Wales, it will win by roughly 8%.
It's speaking to something that is already there. I think that
therefore, it is not considered prudent to even suggest the idea that it be allowed to be considered as a
king
thought
that hypnotizes or a queen that hypnotizes the people into kind of following them like a Pied Piper. That's not really good leadership in this context. Like somehow, like the role of the good king or queen is to intuit and apprehend a deeper spirit that wants to come forth in their people. That is like, you know, it's yearning to come forward but doesn't quite know how, and they're there to kind of shepherd that across. You know, but
well said.
But it's also something that, like, I mean, how the fuck do you know, that's like a ridiculous thing. I mean, like, you can't imagine that in a movie, or how do you tell a story of that?
Well, you're telling a brilliant story of it, and what I'd like to do is be a bit fancy with the narrative and start writing a letter between you and me, because we're recording the conversation and we can broadcast it to individuals. I'd like to start the letter, Dear William, we are your friends. Listen to this and let us continue our cordial communication, because you need us. From the Time Travelers Guild. That's my letter I just wrote.
Yeah. Nice. There's like a useful word perhaps, like in for what we're talking about. I think, which is telos.
Yeah.
Just the idea of kind of like the sort of sensing the future that wants to be unpacked. That there's sort of, I think that's always the, I don't know, life can feel very chaotic, but there's also this thing of, I could sort of imagine like this sort of wise hand that perhaps we all like yearn for at times, that is just this sort of like wise teacher that could just sort of intersect with your life and just kind of see like the points at which you're hung up or like fucked up or like, you know, whatever, and just like nudge you back on course and just be like, oh, you need to read this, blah blah blah, and just sort of like, and that flourishing of being able to kind of then become like way more than you were before, just this sort of like growth, the way that we sort of, the dream version of life is that there's just this endless unpacking, this endless sort of discovery of depth in oneself, and you know, how we can kind of blossom into the world in different ways. And yet, because of the way the world is, of course, it's complicated. Like, you know, we're struggling to fucking, you know, deal with
Life.
everything.
Life. And it's a universal. Life is a universal. It's the one level. Alright, so one of the angles that people have been griping on about on Facebook is like, yeah, he's got a big house and he doesn't have to pay inheritance tax, and it's all like, yeah, he thinks he's a man of the people, but he's not. And that's true. But he's alive, and so we're in the same boat. He feels.
All we all get sick and die, like
So now is a right time to be friends.
Enough is that we all inherit intergenerational trauma.
Exactly. And being heir to the throne is not the kind of trauma that I would wish on myself. Not my bag.
I mean, it's so fucking complicated and like really fucking dark, isn't it? Like,
It is, yeah.
And a lot of stuff that we don't know about. Yeah, my God.
So we can extend a hand of empathy to that family, and that will level us to the point that we're able to have a meaningful dialogue with them. That's my wish.
I think that kind of perhaps the thrust of our conversation has been that actually some degree of dialogue is the only way in which like this thing has any relevance and survives into like
Exactly.
the
So
next generation. And so the dialogue has to be had one way or another. So
you and me,
like, it is
Ollie.
sort of a mic drop, you know, like you sort of like if you want to not just like fade into insignificant, I mean, like what would happen? I guess like it would become a reality TV show. It'd be the only way of paying bills is big estates.
That's Wales's plan, by the way, is to run a reality TV show to vote in the next Prince of Wales. Okay?
Fucking God.
In Welsh. And you have to be able to speak Welsh fluently to qualify, and that's the first fucking test. They're calling it Pobl y Cwm, which means people of the valley.
So how would it work to, but that would be after some kind of split? Where there's
No, that's before the split. That's how we decide who's going to inherit.
I thought that was the whole thing with the proclamation that you were talking about being offensive earlier.
We had a Prince of Wales. He was murdered. There haven't been any Princes of Wales left because they all get murdered. The next guy lasted a week in the job. His father, Owen Glyndwr's father, was known as Llywelyn the Last. The king. The last king of Wales was Llywelyn the Last. They don't teach this in schools. And they should. The fact that Wales isn't on the curriculum of the English school system is so offensive.
I mean, I found the school history thing really disturbing, and actually, I mean, it was really underlined by Vika's father, who is extremely well learned in sort of world history, and I mean, I didn't study history to a high level, which I regret, but I was also amazed to kind of just recount to myself that my recollections of studying history in school mostly revolved around like the Crusades, World War One, the Crusades, the Second World War,
And the Tudors.
Repeating.
The Tudors.
Oh, and the Tudors, of course. Yes, I forgot. Yeah, the costume drama of the Tudors, and yeah.
Well, the Tudor, Henry Tudor the Eighth, was the last Welsh king. He was born in Pembroke. He was a Welshman. He spoke Welsh as a first language. All right. Henry VIII was the father of Elizabeth I. He went to war with the Pope. You appreciate how big those genes are in Wales. His palace was Deptford. You know the Maritime College now? Do you know that building?
Maritime College. Where is it?
Henry VIII's palace is the Maritime College in Deptford. Greenwich.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That's where he was ensconced. So Elizabeth I set in a pattern of motion because she didn't want the job either. She was supposed to be a boy. And that's why Henry VIII beheaded so many of his wives, because none of them would give him a boy.
Unbelievable.
Elizabeth I was very instrumental in this whole idea of queenness. She invented the concept of the good queen. To quote the Beatles, Her Majesty is a pretty nice girl, I'd like to make her mine.
Well, but, I mean, again, interesting to contrast that with other outpicturings of kind of good queens like Boudica, for example, which is like a very different kind of energy, but sort of on the same spectrum in terms of, you know, leadership, inspiration, like, you know, again, it's sort of like the counterpoint to the Arthurian thing in a way, like it's sort of the somehow being very connected with a voicing of like some innate sort of truth about the people and what's going on there.
The king and queen is always a voicing of the people, because that's how it works. That's what the crown is. The physical object, the crown, is like an amplification device for the collective consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps could you talk a bit more about, you know, Charles? I was like curious. I mean, I don't really follow closely the royal family, but
well, I'll explain my interest in Charles.
The thing about him kind of being really ahead of the curve in certain, in many aspects, like, is really curious. Obviously, like other more contentious issues, but like on some levels, there's some really inspiring kind of visionary stuff. Again, like circling back to the kind of theme of telos and like some sort of a king that is able to vision like a future for the country, and someone that is in some degree, even though it may be like nuanced and contentious, connected with concerns of the land, is to me quite interesting. And I wonder like what your thoughts are on that kind of angle.
Well, that's making it personal, and I'm glad you went there. Because Charles is a human, a person, and I've got a relationship with him. I wrote a comic book back in 2006 or 8. It took 2 years to write. And it was a fairy story about me sending a letter to Prince Charles. And he was in it, and I was in it, and there was a fairy tale character called Jack who was going on an adventure to deliver a message to Charles. And he received the comic. It was one of 13 that I got printed. And I got a letter from St. James's Palace saying he's read it, but he doesn't reply to things like this.
That's so funny. I mean, it'd be one thing to say that we just don't respond, but it's very specific to say he read it, but also no comment.
Yeah, I understood that.
I mean, that's more than you get from a lot of kind of submissions as a...
I'll tell you why he didn't comment, because what we were asking him to do was to stand up and be head of the Order of the Garter in public and actually rein in the police, the psychiatric services and the judiciary while he's the Prince of Wales, which he was obviously not willing to do. Okay, and head of the Order of the Garter is in fact that, and he was in fact the head guy of it, and that's a Freemasonic order based in Freemason's house in London. And we knew that, and I called him His Most Mercurial Magistrate. Okay? So you know what I mean. It's a personal relationship. I got under his skin a little bit, but it was a friendly gesture. A comic book author called Toby, who wrote Vibration 13, for the future king.
I love it. I can't believe I haven't seen a copy of this.
You've seen the one of Teriyaki.
Teriyaki.
No, that was later.
Oh, was it later? Right.
It was the difficult second album. It never got finished.
I didn't even know this existed.
Yeah, no, that's what Vibration 13 is. Like, Vibration 13 is extremely esoteric. Yeah, I've still got the original somewhere.
How come you stopped? Ink was. I mean, I know, but mostly now.
And I'm too good at it in the sense that the magic of making a story, writing it down, making pictures, having it link from page to page, and then sending it to someone who's in it is so powerful a mechanism that I decided to put it down for a bit.
Have you come across the musician Amy Mann?
I believe I've heard the name.
There's a few of her albums which had, I think it's, I could be wrong, but I think, do you know Seth, the cartoonist?
I don't know references.
I think Canadian.
Let's keep it off references.
Made a lot.
References.
Okay.
Yeah.
The point, the reason I'm specifically circling back to explain why I'm
Go on.
bringing this up. In the sleeve of the album cover of one of her albums, there's this sort of comic book that makes up the sleeves. It's like, the front album art is kind of paneled, but then as you flick through it, it sort of, has more depictions that kind of work in the lyrics of the songs. It's a really nicely designed thing, and
Great.
the reason why I'm saying this is because, I don't know, I also just think that there's a spirit and a specificity. As you said, you are good with a pen, and there's also something of your personality that kind of naturally somehow comes onto the page in that way that I imagine could complement the music quite wonderfully.
Yeah,
if
and maybe you're right.
Physical object with a sleeve notes that has something of you in it, would be I think really.
Yeah, I think what happened is I got digitized, and digital culture took over. I got digitized. That's why I don't ink anymore, because I lost my connection to the analog world.
It becomes kind of a bit more rarefied because of that, maybe. But I also wonder if it's really interesting that you say that, because when I was spending a lot of time illustrating, and particularly when I was studying and hanging out with a lot of illustrators, I was realizing that one of the reasons that a lot of my classmates were illustrators was that they use illustration or drawing or working with a pen as a way of dealing with the world.
Yeah.
And it's sort of this meditative way to kind of channel things into reality.
When I wrote Vibration 13, I was living with my dad in Ireland in a place called the Nook of Cress, was beyond the Nook of Cranny, Tirnanog, County Kilrush, County Clare.
That's like a Twin Peaks place name.
And that's where we lived.
Beyond the Nook of Cranny.
I mean, we got mail there.
Beautiful.
Okay, so I lived in the realm of fairy when I wrote it with my dad, and weird things was happening, like a crow came down the chimney and it explained things through the geometries by which it flew.
Normal Russians, most of the vast majority of whom are under the breadline, very poor. And we're playing into the rhetoric that Putin is stating, which is that the West wants to fuck with you. And I was just could we just be more creative about this?
Go on.
Instead of depriving mothers who need products to keep their kids alive of that stuff in order to somehow pressure Putin, who's obviously a fucking maniac who does not give a fuck what is happening.
Well, you're a neighbour. You live in West London, right? You're a neighbour of Putin's daughter, bruv. Okay? So London has got a particular price to pay in capitulating to the oligarchs.
Can I tell you my solution?
Go on.
And not a solution, but a creative kind of idea was more to say, okay, instead of not sending the toilet paper, print propaganda on the toilet paper, or rather propaganda, like just sort of the truth, like print journalism. Like in a country like Russia where that isn't available to a lot of people, could be incredibly huge. And also, if you're actually interested in deposing Putin, that has to come from the people of the country, and it goes back to kingship. The idea that the only people who can actually depose a king are its people. Otherwise, you just create a martyr of the fucker, and you just like make a fucking war that like is just going to be
exactly.
Like,
and that's why
crazy, and
Putin's
it's
still
not like-
alive, because he could have been killed.
Say again.
That's why Putin
He
is
could
still
have been
alive,
killed.
because he could have been killed.
Who could have been killed? Putin.
Putin, yeah. We've had lots of opportunities since he started this thing to just take him out, but we haven't. I'm talking about Britain.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to start a nuclear war.
No, I would rather not. So we need creative solutions, please. Supporting
Right, so-
Ukraine in the manner that I am. I don't know if you're aware of the last album that released yesterday through Not the Final Vinyl. It's called Arch Force. And it's 8 minutes of incredibly difficult to listen to Aphex Twin style party music. And the artwork was given to me by Max Kilderoff, and it's a screen capture of me paying Max Kilderoff through PayPal 36 quid.
Can you say why it's incredibly difficult to listen to? That's kind of like one of the most hooky. It's weirdly hooky. Like I think that would be quite a good thing to actually incorporate.
It's indescribable, and you have to hear it in order to comprehend the fucking nature of the glitch. Put it on in mixed company and see what happens, bro.
Are you still recording? That would be some really useful bits.
Well, I've already edited the video and it's up on YouTube. I'll find it. It's called Introducing Max Kilderoff on YouTube channel. Now, Max Kilderoff's great. He's an artist, and he's making art out of, apart from his calligraphy. I'll search Toby Gordon and find the YouTube page, I think. I've got an IMDb page. Toby Godden is known for Amir 2017. Thanks for that.
It's actually one of the reasons that I was interested in getting your take on the reunion script as well, because, I mean, yeah, why not? But yeah, that's quite possible. But I was more interested in getting your take on the Ukraine angle, because I think that at the moment, the way that it's written kind of is... I guess I was hoping that it could be more universal, that it sort of it talks about kind of, there's an ongoing kind of backstory of some sort of invasion that's going on, some trauma that the father has to get back for. The story, there are kind of there are allusions to, so kind of a question that we were thinking about of whether to kind of make this specifically about what's going on in Ukraine right now, like so that the story is set with the characters are Ukrainian, that you know, this guy needs to get back as a matter of urgency because of family members that are kind of trapped there, or, you know, whether it's better to kind of leave it to be more kind of, I don't know.
A fan, my personal opinion, given that you asked, is the ballsier move is to have him Ukrainian and set the conflict as the Ukrainian conflict, and not to make a metaphor of it and try and be beating around the bush. The specificity would lend reality to.
The only reservation is that I sometimes makes me feel. I remember with Amir, I was always kind of slightly torn between, you know, on the one hand, being driven to kind of tell a story that, really felt like it needed to be told. And on the other side, feeling that this is slightly exploitative. I mean, this is not entirely my story.
Well, it's not a documentary.
To make the... Sorry.
It's not a documentary. It's a piece of fiction, and you're writing about characters. It's not like you're exploiting individuals.
For sure, but there's like a huge narrative amongst people who write or sort of in that realm, where there's a lot of sort of criticism about stepping the mark, like appropriating other people's territory, like writing characters that they... I mean, like so much of it is really justified. Like, male fucking writers writing a female sitcom and just not getting voicing of women right because they're on, it's a room filled with males who are writing rather than a representative room, so you can get the voice.
Well, you're asking me, I'm a fan of an individual and I'm working in a quasi-governmental faculty in order to promote Ukrainian artists, because Ukrainian artists are on the ground in Ukraine and they're connected to communities and they've got resources and imagination. And if you give Ukrainian artists resources, they will fix their problem. If Ukrainian people bullets, then people will get shot. So what Max Kilderoff is doing is he's turning bullets and empty shells and bazookas into art objects and selling them to the open market for hundreds of quid. He's a beautiful artist. It's really, really interesting work. Calligraphy, basically. Graffiti style calligraphy. Very abstract.
Yeah, with the these like really broad markers. Like
So let's have a listen to the single Art Force by Procrastinatrix, which is a collaboration between myself and Kilderoff. It's very difficult to listen to. Yeah. It's a live piece. I just twiddled knobs for 8 minutes. It happened to be glitching because it's a QuickTime video. So it's incredibly difficult to listen to, but in quite a approachable way. And that's the single that we're using. People are paying £5 for a £2 single, mate. Because I've stated clearly what the purpose of it is. I'll send you the Bandcamp, you can have a look and maybe even buy a copy, because you don't want to miss out.